I'm sat, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to read. Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing a little book haul because over the course of the holidays with Christmas and then my birthday was on January 5th, I accumulated a good little haul of books because that was essentially all I asked for both Christmas and my birthday. So I thought it would be fun to go through the books with you guys and talk about my new physical TBR for the upcoming year. Hopefully I'm gonna try and make myself make these last so I don't have to buy any new books anytime soon, but I have bad self-control, y'all. Like I'll be honest, I've already read 2 of these books. So we'll see how I do, but yeah, let's just get right into it. Okay, let's start off with the books that I already read from this pile. First one is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I read this on my flight back home after the holidays were over because there's nothing like a good book on a plane. And this was so fun. I've read 3 of Christina Lauren's books before and I've enjoyed all of them. Love in Other Words is my favorite by far. And so I figured this one piqued my interest. It's essentially about these 2 people in college. They get married to kind of bypass, some housing issues and financial issues. It's essentially a marriage of convenience. But then years later, they kind of have to help each other out because I'm not explaining this correctly. Hold on. I can't explain things. I've read this book and I can't even explain what it's about. It's kind of like The White Lotus meets Crazy Rich Asians. Essentially, there's a marriage of convenience between Anna and West, and then years later, they kind of need to keep the ruse going so that West can get the rest of his inheritance, etc., etc. And most of the book takes place on this tropical private island that a wedding is taking place. And, they have to pretend like they've been married for like 5 years. Money, rich families, paradise, fake marriage, etc., etc., etc. Really fun, really quick and easy read. I really enjoyed this one. I would recommend if you're just looking for just an easy, fun read. The other book that I've already read from this stack is Sky Shade. So Sky Shade is the 3rd book in the Light Lark series. I originally thought this was going to be the last book. I thought it was just going to be a trilogy. If you guys remember, I actually thrifted the first book, Light Lark, in my thrifted book haul video. I'll link that somewhere on the screen. So that's how I started reading these, because I thrifted that one and I enjoyed that one enough that I got the second one. Then I saw that the 3rd came out and I was like, well, I might as well complete the trilogy. So I put this one on my Christmas list and I read it. It was okay. I enjoyed it, it was fine, but it definitely wasn't as good as the first 2, unfortunately. Just kind of repetitive. I do think that the story probably should have ended here. The love triangle's just gone on a little too long and we're kind of losing the plot a little bit. I mean, I read it. I still finished it in like 2 days. It was entertaining enough for me to keep reading. I don't know that I'm going to continue the series. I don't know, that's tough for me. I'm a finisher. I like to finish things. So who knows, maybe I'll get like the last 2 on Kindle someday or something, but I'm not dying to know what happens next, to be honest. Okay, now let's get into the books that I haven't read yet. So these are legit my 2025 TBR. So first up, I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I have heard genuinely nothing but good things about this book. From what I've gathered, it's essentially about some friends in college invent a video game and then it follows their lives in the following years as they're developing the game and their relationships, how it affects all of them. Maybe some romance, some found family. I'm not totally sure, but genuinely, everybody I've talked to has adored this book and I thought it seemed interesting enough, and so I put that on my list, and I'm excited to read this one. It's a little different than maybe most of the books that I typically pick up, so I think it'll be a good palate cleanser, maybe in between reading some fantasy series or something. And I love the cover. It's very pretty, very video game vibes. And actually, funny enough, I had this on my list, and then I went thrifting one day, and I found a hardcover copy of it that was in brand new condition. It was so nice and I was like, do I buy this? I already put this on my Christmas list. What if somebody already bought this for me? So I called up my mom and I was like, hey, hypothetically, did you already purchase this book? And she had to be like, hypothetically, yes, that book may be already under the tree. But I did end up purchasing that copy and giving it to one of my friends, so it all worked out in the end. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this one. All right, next we have another fantasy book. This is Heartless Hunter by Kristen, these last names, y'all. Ciccarelli? Kristen. So, Heartless Hunter, this is the first book in the Crimson Moth trilogy. I'm not sure. This is the only book that's out right now. Genuinely, all I know about it is it's like about a witch and a witch hunter, a romantic-y sort of situation, perhaps enemies to lovers. I mean, that's my bread and butter, let's be real. So yeah, I don't know too much about this one other than it seems to have gotten good reviews so far, and I am a sucker for an enemies to lovers. I mean, literally the tagline on it is her deadliest enemy or her greatest love. I mean, I'm sad. I think the second one comes out sometime this year, so perhaps I'll wait to read this one until, you know, that's closer so that I can just jump right into the next one afterwards. We'll see. Speaking of, there are a few books that I am anticipating that are releasing this year that I'm very excited about, such as Onyx Storm, the third book in the Fourth Wing trilogy. But I think that I might talk about those in an upcoming video. I think I'm gonna do a tier list ranking all of my most anticipated releases for 2025, including movies, TV, and books. If there's a book maybe you're thinking like, that's not on your TBR list for 2025, it's because, you know, perhaps it hasn't come out yet, and I'll talk about it in that video. Anyway, you don't care. Moving on. Next we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This book has been on my wish list for quite a while just because, especially last summer, it felt like everybody was reading this book, especially like on Book Talk. And the cover is very pretty. And I actually read Abby Jimenez's probably her other biggest book, which is right here. So yeah, I already read Yours Truly and I really enjoyed it. This one was really good. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. Again, I think this one will be a good palate cleanser in between possibly reading fantasy books. Sure, would it maybe make sense for me to wait to read this during the summertime? Yes. Am I gonna have the patience to do that? I don't know. I would say probably not. I'm not even really sure what this is about. Looks like the main character, Emma, is cursed. Every time she dates somebody, they tend to find their true love right after they break up. So she's kind of like the person that people date right before they fall in love. So that's a bit tragic. Perhaps the male main character, Justin, also has the same issue. So they figure if they date each other for a bit, then after they break up, they will find their soulmate. That's what I've gathered from the back of this book. Sounds intriguing enough to me. Listen, like, something you should know about me, I'm so easy to please. I'm so easy to entertain. I read to have a good time, all right? I'm not out here trying to read for intellectual purposes. I'm not trying to learn anything. I don't always care about a book being super well written. Now, that's not to say I don't like a good, well-written book and that I would prefer the book to be well written, but at the end of the day, I'm reading for fun. I'm reading to giggle and kick my feet, and I think this is gonna do the job, so I'm excited for it. All right, next up on the TBR, we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gilligig? Gilligig? I don't know. I really should have done my research before filming this. One Dark Window, this is the first book in the duology. I believe it's One Dark Window and like Two Twisted Crowns. This is a fantasy book that people are raving about. I mean, they will not shut up about this duology. Specifically, I think people have said the second one is like incredible, but this one is still really, really good. I'm a sucker for fantasy, especially when there's romance involved, which there seems to be. And if people are giving it that high of praise, then it must be good enough for me to read. This actually I got for myself for my birthday. This was my birthday gift to myself. And I figure I'll get the second one eventually, maybe next time I'm at a bookstore or something. As to what it's about, there's a monster inside her or something. I don't know, there's magic and monsters and love. A maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush, gothic fantasy debut. That's the other thing. I believe this is, gothic fantasy, and I've not really read a gothic fantasy, I don't think. This could be a new flavor for me, something new, something fresh. I'm excited for it. It's got a good flop to it. I like the cover, very pretty, very whimsy, very dark, very intriguing. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this one. All right, and then last but not least, I have the entire Prison Healer trilogy. So The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Lynette Noni. The Prison Healer trilogy, from what I've gathered, is a romantasy trilogy. Okay, you know how in most fantasy books, like the female main character is usually badass of some sort, perhaps an assassin, perhaps a hunter, perhaps a queen, perhaps a dragon rider, you know, the list goes on. But apparently in this one, she is a healer and, you know, isn't maybe necessarily skilled at fighting, but skilled at healing and people skills, etc., etc. And I think that sounds fun, kind of a little something different. And again, I've heard really good things about this trilogy. I love when there's a completed trilogy or series already out there and I don't have to worry about waiting for the next book to come out. That was what was so fun about reading Throne of Glass, for example. I had 8 books to go through, a completed story, and I could just dive right into the next one as soon as I finished one. You know what I mean? So I'm very excited to have a full trilogy here that I can go through. I'm assuming there's a prison involved. With an incurable plague sweeping Zalindov, a mysterious new inmate fighting for Kiva's heart, and a prison rebellion brewing, Kiva can't escape the terrible feeling that her trials have only just begun. Oh yes, I believe there's trials. Love some trials, personally. Love some trials, perhaps some enemies or rivals to lovers? I don't know. And there's a quote by Sarah J. Maas on the cover. Lynette Noni is a masterful storyteller, a must-read for any fantasy lover. I'm a fantasy lover. If Sarah J. Maas says to read this book, then I will read this book. Okay? And a little bonus item in the haul. I got this book journal from my friend Cheyenne for Christmas. And I'm very excited about this because previously I was just kind of like writing down the names of all the books that I read in the year, just like in a random notebook that I have. And last year I read 44 books. Yes, round of applause, round of applause. Very proud of myself for that. I don't really usually set like a book goal per se for the year just because I don't know, I don't like love to put that pressure on myself, but I do like to keep track. Maybe hopefully this year I'll hit 50. I think that's a pretty realistic goal considering I did 44 this year. But yeah, this book is pretty cool. It just has like a place for book reviews. Somebody used this year to track how many books that I read in 2025. So pretty excited about that, and it's like so cute. All right, thank you so much. That was my entire haul, my physical TBR for 2025. I'm very excited to read all of these books. Like I said, I think the next video on the channel is going to be a tier list ranking all of my upcoming anticipated releases for the year. I think it's going to be a really good year for movies, TV, and books. Like I was starting to write them all down and I was like, oh shoot, like a lot of stuff is coming out in 2025, so that's very exciting. Comment down below if you have read any of these books and how you felt about them. I would love to know your thoughts before I dive into them. And yeah, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!